The Galactic Academy's training dome hummed with nervous energy as Instructor Vexthor paced before the observation window. His four eyes darted between the assessment chamber below and the chronometer on his wrist-mounted display. "This is madness," he muttered, his chitinous mandibles clicking in distress. 40 Kelrathi cubs in their first blood rage cycle, and command assigns a human as their handler? Beside him, Instructor Jal's tentacles writhed in agreement. The cubs should have been sedated hours ago. Protocol demands it. Once the rage begins, not even a fully armored Kelrathi warrior can control them. Below, in the reinforced chamber designed to contain small tactical nuclear explosions, 40 adolescent Kelrathi stood in perfect formation. Each cub stood nearly 7 feet tall, their silver fur rippling over dense muscle, fangs protruding from powerful jaws. Their eyes, all of them, glowed that telltale crimson that signaled the onset of their species' infamous battle frenzy. And before them stood Lyra. The human looked impossibly small. She wore no armor, carried no weapons, not even a shock staff, just standard academy fatigues and boots that seemed 2 sizes too large for her slender frame. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail and her face remained calm, almost serene. "She'll be torn apart," Vexthor hissed. "We should abort this assessment." "I'm calling security." "Wait." Jal's primary eye focused on the scene below. Look at them. The cubs hadn't moved. Despite the rage hormones flooding their systems, despite every instinct screaming at them to fight, to destroy, to prove their dominance, they stood still. Their claws flexed. Their breath came in heavy, aggressive snorts. But they held formation. They were waiting. Lyra walked slowly along the line, her footsteps barely audible through the chamber's audio feed. She stopped before the largest cub, Arin, the alpha of this pack. His crimson eyes tracked her movement, a low growl building in his chest. "I know it hurts," Lyra said softly, her voice carrying no fear, no dominance, just simple acknowledgement. "Your blood feels like fire. Every cell in your body is telling you to lash out." Arin's growl intensified. His claws scraped against the reinforced floor, leaving deep gouges. "But you're more than your instincts," Lyra continued, meeting his burning gaze without flinching. "You're warriors. And warriors don't surrender to rage, they master it." In the observation booth, Vexthor's translator struggled with the concept. In Kelrathi culture, the blood rage was sacred, uncontrollable, a gift from their war gods. The notion of controlling it was heresy, yet the cubs remained frozen, hanging on every word from this tiny human. Lyra turned, addressing them all. "Your instructors expected chaos. They expected you to lose yourselves the moment the rage took hold. They prepared sedatives, restraints, isolation chambers." She paused, letting that sink in. "They expected you to fail." A ripple of snarls echoed through the chamber. Several cubs' muscles bunched, ready to spring. "But I know better," Lyra said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper, "because 3 cycles ago I stood where you stand now. Not with blood rage, but with fear. Humans don't have your strength, your speed, your natural weapons. When I faced my first combat simulation, every instinct told me to run, to hide, to survive at any cost." She walked back to the center of the formation, and impossibly the cubs shifted slightly to keep her in view. Not as prey, but as something else. Something they were beginning to understand. A Kelrathi instructor told me I would fail. That humans were too weak, too emotional, too soft for real combat. Lyra's expression hardened with the memory. But my human instructor, a scarred veteran who'd survived 3 wars, she told me something different.
She said, "Fear doesn't make you weak."
Running from fear makes you weak. Standing in the fire and choosing your next action, that's what makes you strong. Arin's growl had subsided to a low rumble. His eyes, still crimson, held something beyond rage now. Recognition, perhaps, respect. "So here's your choice," Lyra said, her voice cutting through the chamber like a blade. "You can let the rage control you. Prove every prejudice right. Show the galaxy that Kelrathi are just savage beasts who can't be trusted in civilized space." She paused, and her next words were steel. "Or you can show them what I already know, that you're the finest warriors this academy has ever seen." The silence stretched. 40 cubs, trembling with barely contained fury, stood at the precipice of choice. Lyra pulled a small remote from her pocket. "Behind you is the most advanced combat simulation in known space. Hostile environment. Adaptive AI enemies. Lethal force authorized. She pressed a button and the walls of the chamber shimmered, transforming into a war-torn alien cityscape. Your mission: rescue civilians, eliminate hostiles, complete the objective. Use your rage. Channel it. Master it. She looked at Aaron specifically, then back to the pack. When I give the word, you begin. Not before. You prove to everyone watching that you control the rage. The rage doesn't control you. Up in the observation booth, a dozen instructors from various species had gathered, drawn by the impossible scene unfolding below. Vexthor's mandibles hung open in shock. The cub stood ready, every muscle coiled like a spring but absolutely still, waiting for permission, waiting for trust to be rewarded. Lyra's lips curved into the slightest smile. She leaned forward, and in a voice that was barely a whisper, yet somehow filled with absolute authority, she spoke a single word. Begin. The cubs exploded into motion, but not into chaos. They moved as a unit, tactics and teamwork overriding raw aggression. Aaron led the charge, his rage transformed into focused lethality. They swept through the simulation like a surgical strike, using their enhanced strength and speed with precision rather than abandon. In 8 minutes and 43 seconds, they completed what normally took experienced teams over 20 minutes. When the simulation ended, the cubs stood among the holographic rubble, breathing hard, eyes still glowing crimson but under control, waiting for acknowledgement from the small human who had given them something no one else had. Trust. Lyra nodded once, approval clear in her expression. Outstanding. Vexthor slumped against the observation window, his certainty shattered. How? He whispered. Jaal's tentacles moved in a gesture that might have been a shrug. Perhaps, the instructor said slowly. We've been teaching control wrong all this time. Perhaps what they needed wasn't chains. What did they need? A reason to be more than their instincts, and someone who believed they could be. Below, the human and the cubs stood together. Different species, different worlds, but united by something the galaxy was only beginning to understand about humans. They didn't just survive among the stars. They made others want to be better.